Chapter 30-26. If we really have to go through so many levels, then the cultivators who pass are really geniuses among geniuses. Xiao He looked at the shocking building in front of her and was secretly speechless. Could it be that no one has ever obtained the inheritance of the demonic abyss? As soon as she said this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but look at Di Beichen and Xiren. She really didn't know anything about history. Di Beichen shook his head. That's not the case. There are still cultivators who have obtained the inheritance, but the number is even fewer than in the blood-ground abyss. Even if there should only be 1 or 2 people, right? Xiao Bai said helplessly. More or less. Di Beichen replied. Xiao Bai scratched her head, her face full of helplessness. It seems that the test of the demonic abyss is really a little abnormal. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly, not showing the slightest disappointment because of this news. We have already seen the effect of the blood aura field. It is very helpful to cultivators. The inheritance of the murderous aura field must be more powerful than the blood aura field. So it is naturally very difficult to obtain. If it was so easy to obtain, it wouldn't be so attractive. Ever since she came into contact with the blood aura field, Bailey Hongzhuang admired the power of the blood aura field. If she could obtain the murderous aura field, then once the 2 auras were combined, the effect would be even more shocking. For ordinary people, it was undoubtedly extremely difficult to fight above their level, but once they had the blood aura field or the murderous aura field, everything became much simpler. Shangguan Yingying nodded. Hongzhuang is right. It is precisely because the possibility of success is very small that once we succeed, the harvest will be extremely shocking. Since someone has already obtained the murderous aura field, we might be able to succeed. Looking at Shangguan Yingying's confident appearance, the smile in Wen Xiren's eyes couldn't help but deepen a little. He reached out and pulled the former into his arms. Yingying, you have to be mentally prepared before you go in. The scene inside is probably more cruel and bloody than you can imagine. Shangguan Yingying raised her eyebrows. Don't underestimate me. I wanted to go with you when you went to the blood-ground abyss, but I didn't have the chance. Beichen brought Hongzhuang to the blood-field abyss, but you refused to bring me. This time I'll show you how powerful I am. Xiren chuckled and tightened his grip on Shangguan Yingying's hand. Then I'll wait and see. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other and smiled. They turned and walked towards the Demon Refining Pagoda. In the center of the Demon Refining Island, this solitary pagoda really gave everyone a lot of shock. It was only when Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 arrived in front of the pagoda that they could feel it more clearly. The pagoda was several hundred meters tall. Every single floor was much taller than an ordinary building. Moreover, there were many chains that were thicker than a human hand coiled around the pagoda. It seemed like a forbidden place, causing everyone's hearts to tremble. Looking at the pagoda before them, everyone felt as if they would be completely subdued as soon as they walked in. It was a deal with the devil, and the slightest carelessness would cause them to be completely wiped out. Chapter 30-27. Let's go in, Di Beichen said. In the next second, Di Beichen and the other 3 walked into the demon training tower together. As soon as they entered the demon training tower, the 4 of them felt an overwhelming clamor that went straight into their ears. It was a stark contrast to the silence outside. In their line of sight was a reception hall. The entire hall was abnormally spacious and bright. It was divided into various small sections, and every section was filled with people. It looked extremely busy. The appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 naturally attracted the attention of many people. However, everyone's gazes turned away after sizing them up for an instant. It was as if they were already used to it. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 were secretly shocked when they saw this scene. This situation was completely different from the blood training tower. Most importantly, the bright lights here and everything in an orderly manner did not seem to be chaotic at all. It was completely different from what they had imagined. Instead, it made them feel as if they did not know where to start. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was thinking about what to do, a graceful figure appeared in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3. The 4 of you should be new to the demon training tower, right? Di Beichen nodded slightly and said in a deep voice, That's right. The 4 of you, please follow me to fill in your information. I will tell you the basic information and lifestyle of the demon training tower. The woman's face always had an indifferent and delicate smile, making it impossible for people to have any ill feelings towards her. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three followed behind the woman and walked to one of the many counters in the hall. There was a sign hanging there, newcomer registration area. Previously, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three were busy sizing up their surroundings and did not notice the existence of such a counter. The situation here seems to be a little different from what we imagined. I'm really curious as to how we can cultivate here. Xiren lowered his voice and said slowly. Di Beichen's eyes flashed with a deep light. You'll know later. Everything here is indeed different from the blood-ground abyss. Bailey Hongzhuang can't help but think of the first time she and Di Beichen received the spirit stones. It seems that Penglai Island likes this layout very much. Although the place where they received the spirit stones is not as magnificent as here, the overall layout is still the same. It was precisely this kind of orderly and abnormal feeling that made them realize that all of this was not simple, causing them to not dare to act rashly. Just by looking at the scene before her, Bailey Hongzhuang was certain that everyone here had to abide by certain rules. Once the rules were broken, the consequences would be very tragic. The woman walked into the counter, her delicate face always filled with a polite smile. She reached out and handed the pen and paper to Di Beichen, saying, "Please fill in your information first." Di Beichen looked at the paper in front of him and couldn't help but frown, because there was only one place to fill in, and that was cultivation. In the name column there was only a number. As if seeing Di Beichen's confusion, the woman explained, "In our demon training island, we don't call people by their names, only their serial number. This serial number is your name here." As soon as these words came out, Di Beichen and the others understood, and the surprise in their hearts became even stronger. Chapter 30:28. Our demonic training tower is divided into a total of 5 areas. One is the living area, which is where the cultivators usually live. Everyone has their own room, but they need to pay a certain fee. The size of the room is different, and the price is also determined according to the size of the room. No matter what kind of service you need, whether it's ordering food, buying pills, weapons, or other needs, you only need to go to the counter in the center of the central area and say it. As long as you can afford it, the service you need will be sent to your room as soon as possible. When talking about other needs, the woman looked at Di Beichen and the others with a hint of frivolity. The meaning of her words couldn't be more obvious. This is the price list of the accommodation. You can take a look. Di Beichen took the price list and looked at it. Although he was prepared, he still couldn't help but be surprised. This price was really shocking. Previously, when they were on Emerald Island, the rooms they stayed in were of the highest quality. 1 low-grade spirit stone per day was already a high price. However, in the Demon Refining Tower, even the worst room cost 3 spirit stones per day. As for the price of a large room, it was even more expensive. This was just the cost of the room. Food and some other basic needs were not included. If all of these were added together, the cost of a day's accommodation could be said to be extremely shocking. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others naturally saw this price and their hearts couldn't help but thump. Ever since they came to Penglai Island, they had become completely poor. Fortunately, before they left, Yi Lifei gave them some spirit stones. They didn't refuse because they felt that their needs after coming to the Demon Training Tower might not be small. But now, looking at the price list, the help Yi Lifei gave them was just a drop in the bucket. They definitely wouldn't stay on Demon Training Island for a short time. According to the consumption of so many spirit stones a day, it wouldn't be long before they used up all their savings. If they couldn't find a way to make money on Demon Training Island, then they would be forced to leave in 2 or 3 months. A strong sense of helplessness rose in the hearts of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3. If it was in the past, they had not experienced this kind of embarrassment for a long time. They did not expect that after coming to Penglai Island, they could not move an inch because of this problem. The woman's face was filled with a faint smile. Looking at the expressions of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, she said, "Have you all decided on which room to stay in?" "Give us 2 of the most common rooms," Di Beichen said. Based on their current situation, this was the only thing they could do. The more spiritual stones they saved, the longer they could stay on the island. Hearing Di Beichen's answer, the woman nodded, but a look of disdain flashed in the depths of her eyes. "All right. other than the residential area. The second area is where the arena matches are held. Everyone can head to the second area to participate in the arena. If you win, you will receive a certain reward. If you lose, you might lose your life. Similarly, you can also choose to place a bet. If you win, you will receive a corresponding reward, the woman continued. Chapter 30:29. The third area is the living quarters for alchemists and doctors. It's relatively quiet there, and no one would dare to disturb them. Alchemists and doctors can refine pills or concoct medicines and sell them in exchange for a certain amount of spirit stones. However, we will take a commission from them. Aside from alchemists and doctors, ordinary cultivators are not allowed to enter the third area. This is the method we use to protect ourselves. The woman did not explain in detail when she spoke about this. Clearly, she did not think that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were either of the two. Alchemists and doctors did not need to worry about money. How could they be as embarrassed as the four in front of them? May I ask if we can sell pills and the like in the other areas? Bailey Hongzhuang slowly asked. Based on their current situation, their need for spirit stones was not small. If they ran out of spirit stones in the future, they could only use this method to exchange for them. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the woman could not help but glance at Bailey Hongzhuang. The disdain in her eyes grew even stronger, but she still nodded. Yes, as long as there's something valuable, the Devil Refining Tower can sell it on your behalf. Thank you. Bailey Hongzhuang heaved a sigh of relief. At least this way they would have a way to deal with it. They would not have to worry about being forced to leave due to a lack of spirit stones. The fourth area is the cultivation area. Different rooms in the cultivation area have different levels of yuan qi. If you want to quickly raise your cultivation level, cultivating in the cultivation area is a very good method. However, the price of the cultivation area is extremely high. It's much higher than the living quarters. Furthermore, it's not something that can be entered with money alone. You must reach a certain level in the Devil Refining Tower before you can enter. When the woman spoke up to this point, she glanced indifferently at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. She had no intention of introducing them further. These fellows can't even afford to stay in the most ordinary of rooms. If they want to cultivate in the cultivation area, that's a complete fantasy. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others naturally noticed the change in the woman's mood. Hence, even though they were very interested in the cultivation area, they did not ask any further. They thought that it would only make the other party laugh even more. Since that was the case, it was better to let them find out for themselves. In any case, according to the woman's words, they did not have the qualifications to head to the cultivation area for the time being. The fifth area is the trial area. Whether or not you can obtain the inheritance of the Demon Refining Tower depends on this trial area. If you can pass through all the trials, you will be able to obtain the inheritance of the Killing Aura. However, this is not an easy task. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others nodded. After the woman's introduction, they now had a basic understanding of the magic tower. Compared to the simple division of the Blood Refining Tower, the division of the Demon Refining Tower was clearly much more detailed and had more functions than the Blood Refining Tower. If you don't have any other questions, write down your cultivation here. You may leave after receiving your number plate. Hearing this, Di Beichen and the other three wrote down their cultivation levels on the paper one by one. However, this was not their real cultivation levels. Chapter 30:30. Thank you for the reminder. Di Beichen cupped his fists and walked up to the second floor with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. With the departure of Di Beichen and the others, another woman came to the side of the first woman, her face full of interest. Tianming, I saw that the men just now were not bad. Do they have any potential for development? Sweet Dream curled her lips. So what if they're good-looking? They're just a few poor bastards living on the second floor. It's a complete waste of time to deal with them. They can only live on the second floor? The other woman seemed to be very surprised. They don't look like it. Take a look at their cultivation. Sweet Dream handed the registration book in front of her to the woman. They're all at the 5th level of the Purple Realm. They must be newcomers to Penglai Island and came here stupidly out of curiosity. They don't understand the power of this place at all. In my opinion, it won't be long before they lose their lives here. Sweet Dream shrugged. She had seen many such cultivators before, and they were usually cannon fodder. They might not even be able to cause a single ripple on this demonic refining island before they were directly thrown out to wet the ground. Looking at the registration in front of her, the woman also showed a lack of interest. There's really nothing to pay attention to. It's more reliable to find a man with a lot of money. Unfortunately, the men with a lot of money don't look very good. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others walked to the second floor, Xiaohei couldn't help but say, "That woman clearly looked down on us." At first it was fine, but when she found out that we were going to live in the most ordinary room, her attitude immediately changed. She's really a snob. Shangguan Yingying's face also showed an angry expression. Yes, the contempt in her eyes was too obvious. I've never been looked down on like this before. Xiren patted Shangguan Yingying's shoulder and smiled. Yingying, the people here are all snobs. If you didn't show your ability, it's normal for people to look down on you like this. It's good enough that she didn't directly mock us. In fact, we are indeed 4 poor fellows. Even if we add up all the spirit stones we have, we don't know how long we can stay in this residential area. Bailey Hongzhuang spread out her hands with a self-deprecating smile on her face. Now that she was dressed as a man, she didn't feel much. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but laugh. Hongzhuang, you're really calm. Just get used to it. Bailey Hongzhuang came to an understanding in her heart. Shangguan Yingying had always grown up in the Cloudsword sect since she was young, and the number of times she'd left the sect to gain experience in tempering wasn't many. Thus she didn't encounter many situations like this. But she was different. She'd walked through the ridicule and disdain of others all along the way, and she'd long since become accustomed to such gazes. This kind of person was also very simple. As long as you displayed a certain amount of strength, she would immediately change her original face and let you feel how fast she changed her face. There should be a lot of rich people in this devil refining tower. There aren't many people living on the second floor. Looks like we're indeed at the bottom. Di Beichen sized up the situation around him and judged. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at the situation around her. She also noticed that some of the doors were open, which meant that there were no cultivators living inside. Chapter 30-31. Don't worry, I believe that we won't be staying here for long. Di Beichen's deep and charming eyes rippled with the light of a smile. He was very confident about this point. As soon as he said this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 looked at each other and smiled. As long as they had the ability, they would be able to quickly improve the situation before them. Xiren, I feel that the situation of this magic tower is different from what you told me before. Everything seems to be quite normal. Shangguan Yingying raised her eyebrows and looked at Xiren. She had always been looking forward to seeing the cruel side of the magic tower with her own eyes because Xiren had introduced a lot of things to her in order to let her be mentally prepared. However, after coming here, she felt that the situation was completely different. The situation here is also beyond my expectations. However, when we go to the arena area, you should be able to see it. Xiren said with a faint smile. Shangguan Yingying declined to comment. Let's stay here for the time being. The density of the elemental energy in the demonic training tower is indeed higher than outside. The density of the elemental energy here is already comparable to when we were cultivating in the sect. I am really curious as to how dense the elemental energy in the cultivation area is. Judging from the pride of that woman when she introduced the cultivation area, the density of the yuan qi in the cultivation area must be very high. If we can cultivate there, it will be a great help to our cultivation. Unfortunately, with our current situation, whether it is the spirit stones or the level, we don't have enough. We have to think of a way to reach a high enough level and then earn enough spirit stones. As for the other things, we are not in such a hurry. The ink-black phoenix eyes rippled with a deep light. To Bailey Hongzhuang, the most important thing now was to increase her cultivation. Nothing else was that important. Tomorrow we will go to the arena area to take a look and understand the situation at the same time. Let's have a good rest here today, Di Beichen said. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That woman gave me a manual just now. It is about life in the magic tower. Let's take a look at it later. While they were talking, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three successfully found their room. The two rooms were right next to each other, which was very convenient. Beichen Hongzhuang, have a good rest. We'll make our move tomorrow after we're refreshed, Wen Ziren said. After drifting on the ship for a few days, everyone was a little tired. They just wanted to have a good rest today. Rest well too. Closing the door, Bailey Hongzhuang also looked at the room in front of her. The room was very simple. There was only a bed inside and nothing else. However, the size of the room was much larger than Bailey Hongzhuang had imagined. It seemed that the standard of living in the Demon Refining Tower was quite good. Even the worst room looked very good. Of course, 3 spirit stones a day was enough for one to live in a luxurious residence in the outside world. Bailey Hongzhuang sat down on the bed and flipped through the manual in her hand. Beichen, the difference between the Demon Refining Abyss and the Bloodground Abyss seems to be that they have all the inns in the Bloodground Abyss in the Demon Refining Tower. That's why the tower is so tall. Chapter 30-32. Although the Blood Refining Tower only had a total of 9 floors, the entire Bloodground Abyss was extremely large. Including the training grounds, the Demon Refining Tower only had a few dozen floors. The difference in size between the two could be imagined. This is not surprising. The requirements to go to the Bloodground Abyss are much lower. Just the threshold of cultivators above the 5th level of the Purple Realm is enough to stop many people from coming to Penglai Island. Therefore, the range of the Demon Refining Tower is destined to be smaller than the Blood Refining Tower. However, the people here are much stronger. Beichen nodded. The higher the level of the pyramid, the fewer the number of cultivators. Therefore, the range of the Demon Refining Tower was naturally smaller. Looking at the introduction in the manual, I feel that the Demon Refining Abyss is even more brutal than the Bloodground Abyss. With our current cultivation, I'm afraid it's very dangerous here. Bailey Hongzhuang handed the manual to Beichen. The content of the manual was very simple. The principle was that strength was everything. As for the rest, it was useless here. The strength of a 5th level of the Purple Realm was often the same as cannon fodder here, let alone a 3rd level of the Purple Realm. Beichen looked at the contents of the manual and his eyes deepened. You're right. With our current cultivation, it's not suitable for us to fight with anyone. Otherwise, it'll be very troublesome. Just the fact that they were able to come here without even reaching the 5th level of the Purple Realm was enough to attract a lot of attention. According to his experience, it was never a good thing to attract attention in a place like this. It was a big trouble. In that case, won't we be in a lot of trouble? The 3 beasties stood to the side, their faces revealing a difficult expression. Bailey Hongzhuang stroked Baisher's soft fur. We've already mentally prepared ourselves for this. With our cultivation, it's difficult to move around here. However, as long as we're careful not to cause trouble, it's not a problem to cultivate here quietly. At least, the density of the elemental energy here is higher than on other islands. Let's go to the arena area tomorrow to take a look. It would be best if we could make use of the arena area to earn a certain amount of spirit stones. This way we can also solve our urgent problem. Beichen reached out to hold Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "Wife, you must be tired these days. Rest well. It won't be too late to think about other things in the future." Beichen's eyes, which were as deep as the sea, flickered with intense heartache. He could see all the hardships that Bailey Hongzhuang was suffering right now, and his heart ached even more. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "All right, let's rest together." She always believed that tomorrow would be better. No matter what kind of desperate situation she was in, she firmly believed that there was always a way out. The next day, after Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 rested for a while, they were also full of energy. All of their fatigue had disappeared without a trace. After understanding the price list of the Magic Training Tower, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 no longer had any thoughts of ordering food. Fortunately, they still had a lot of dry rations in their Qianquan bags. Before they earned enough spirit stones, they didn't plan on eating here for the time being. On the bottom 10 floors of the Magic Training Tower, other than the reception hall on the 1st floor, the 2nd to 10th floors were all residential areas. The 10th to 15th floors were where the alchemists and doctors lived. The 16th floor was where the arena was. Chapter 30-33. Before obtaining a certain amount of battle results, cultivators could only participate in the arena on the 16th floor. Unless they had accumulated enough battle results, they could only proceed to the 17th floor. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three had already expected this, so they were not surprised. As Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three arrived at the 16th floor, a burst of deafening shouts broke into their ears. In their line of sight there was a huge arena in the center, surrounded by seats in the shape of steps. At this moment 2 cultivators were locked in a fierce battle in the arena, and the surrounding spectator seats were also filled with people. At this moment, they were constantly raising their hands and cheering for the cultivators that they favored. A faint smell of blood spread out from the arena. The 2 cultivators were already injured, but they did not seem to feel the pain on their bodies. Their gazes were abnormally fierce, as if they would not stop until they killed their opponent. After seeing this scene, Shangguan Yingying's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. This situation was indeed the same as what Xiren had described to her. This competition has already started, we can't place any bets. Xiren shrugged. They came to the arena area today for no other reason than to earn spirit stones. Let's go to the spectator seats and take a look first. We don't know enough about the combat power of a 5th level Purple Realm cultivator. Watching a few more matches will be beneficial for us. Di Beichen said in a deep voice. Xiren nodded slightly. The 4 of them then found an empty seat in the spectator seats and sat down. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 sat down, a waiter came up to them and asked if they needed food and drinks. However, he was rejected by Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3. Right now they could not even pay for the room, let alone order something here. However, the surrounding cultivators were obviously much wealthier than them. Many of the cultivators were drinking wine while watching the arena excitedly. Shangguan Yingying looked at the bright red liquid in many people's wine glasses and could not help but wonder, what are they drinking? I don't think I've ever seen such a crystal clear red drink before. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 2 looked at each other. She and Di Beichen then looked away, leaving everything to Xiren to explain. Bloody Mary. Xiren lowered his voice and whispered in Shangguan Yingying's ear. To put it simply, it's human blood. But it's been processed so it doesn't look sticky. As Xiren's voice fell, Shangguan Yingying's expression suddenly changed. She covered her mouth with her right hand and wanted to vomit, but she forcefully held it back. Some of the cultivators present also noticed Shangguan Yingying's movements. They glanced at Shangguan Yingying indifferently and labeled her as a newbie. They can actually drink human blood with such relish? Shangguan Yingying asked in disbelief. When Xiren smiled faintly, after we win the bet, you can also order a cup to try. I'm not interested in this kind of thing. Shangguan Yingying hurriedly refused. Xiren raised his eyebrows. He did not intend to force Shangguan Yingying, but the demonic abyss itself was such an existence. He believed that Shangguan Yingying would understand after staying here for a long time. Bang! Tyrannical origin energy collided in the arena. How strong was a 5th level Purple Realm cultivator? Chapter 30-34. How powerful would a 5th level Purple Realm cultivator be when they unleashed all of their strength? Even the entire Devil Training Tower would be destroyed under such power. However, even though the battle between the 2 was extremely intense, they were still isolated within the protective barrier. Just this point alone was enough to see how powerful the protective barrier was. This was only the lowest level of the arena. The cultivators in the arenas above would become more and more powerful, and the fluctuations from the battle would become more and more intense. However, the entire Devil Training Tower was not affected at all. This made Bailey Hongzhuang sigh at how amazing the Devil Training Tower was. Bang! Shocking collisions continued to erupt. Bailey Hongzhuang noticed that the battle was nearing its end. The 2 people in the arena had basically used all of their strength. They were only left with one last fight. Kill him! Kill him! The spectators in the stands kept shouting. Their eyes flashed with excitement. Such a bloody scene did not make them feel uncomfortable at all. On the contrary, it made them very excited. Shang Guanying was speechless when she saw such a perverted scene. Sure enough, the people here were all crazy. There was no moral bottom line at all. Originally, she did not think much of Xiren's introduction. She only thought that Xiren was exaggerating. However, it seemed that Xiren was not exaggerating at all. On the contrary, it was very simple. Fresh blood seemed to be the main theme here. Everyone was excited because of fresh blood. Human life became the most insignificant thing. Bailey Hongzhuang silently watched the battle in the arena. Her ink-black phoenix eyes flashed with a deep and shrewd light. The people here were different from the cultivators in the Bloody Ground Abyss. The cultivators in the Bloody Ground Abyss could only be considered not bad. However, the cultivators in the Devil Training Abyss were already geniuses among geniuses. Any cultivator who had cultivated to this level would cherish their lives very much. If they were to lose their lives just because of a competition, it would not be worth it. Therefore, she was very curious about the final result of this competition. Bang! One of the men fell heavily to the ground. Panting, he no longer had the strength to stand up. His body was already covered in blood, and there was a bloody hole in his head. Blood kept flowing out from the wound, and the strong smell of blood entered everyone's nostrils. Kill him! Kill him! The crowd was still clamoring, as if He Yang's methods were the only thing that could make them feel better. However, in the end, the opponent didn't take the guy's life. Instead, he took the number plate from his body, paired the two numbers together, and threw the number plate back to the guy. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. It seemed that they didn't have enough understanding of the arena. Di Beichen pondered and said slowly, that number plate should have the winning points. After this man won, he directly took away the points that belonged to his opponent. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded lightly. If you want to reach a higher level, you must have enough points. Even though they didn't know much, they could make a judgment based on their past experience. Chapter 30-35. For a cultivator to reach the 5th level of the Purple Realm, the amount of hard work and effort required was simply unimaginable. The higher the cultivation, the more unwilling one was to die. This result was already much better than what they had imagined. I feel that this person must have paid a heavy price, or else the opponent wouldn't have let him go so easily. Shang Guanying pondered. No matter what price he paid, it's not as important as his own life. Xiren said with a smile. Shang Guanying nodded. That's true. From the looks of it, although it's easy to get seriously injured in the Demon Training Tower's arena, it's not so easy to lose one's life. That's not bad. The worry in Xiren's eyes dissipated a little. If they wanted to obtain the qualifications to cultivate in the cultivation area, they had to participate in the arena. If it was easy to lose one's life in the arena, it would be a huge risk for them. Although they came here with the spirit of adventure, they didn't want to die in vain. If that's the case, then we have to be careful not to offend some people. Otherwise, the arena could very well be upgraded to a life and death battle, Di Beichen said with a smile. As soon as these words came out, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two's faces became serious. One had to know that in a place like the Demon Training Abyss, where everything depended on one's fists, reasoning wouldn't work at all. Conflicts between cultivators couldn't be more simple. It was possible that you didn't do anything, and the other party simply didn't like you. That was also very possible. With their understanding of themselves, the possibility of not causing trouble in a place like this was close to zero. They could only try their best to be careful. Next battle, 5th level of the Purple Realm Zhao Jun against 5th level of the Purple Realm Zhang Liang. Zhao Jun's current record is 5 battles, 3 wins and 2 losses. Zhang Liang's current record is 7 battles, 3 wins, 3 losses and 1 draw. At this time, the staff of the Demon Training Tower had already stood up to announce the situation of the two cultivators in the next battle. While the staff was introducing themselves, Zhao Jun and Zhang Liang slowly walked up to the arena so that the audience could better recognize them. The next 20 minutes will be the time to place your bets. You can check the odds for yourselves. After 20 minutes, the arena will officially begin. After listening to the introduction, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but look at the odds in the arena area. On a black rectangular board, the odds were clearly written. Zhao Jun's odds were 1 to 3, and Zhang Liang's odds were 1 to 5. According to this situation, we can only bet based on our own judgment. It's hard to tell if we can win in the end. Xiron frowned. In his current situation, the only way to earn spirit stones was to place bets. However, he only knew about the strength and battle records of the two. He had no idea about the fighting style of the two. It was very difficult to determine the final winner. Although the results could reflect the situation of some cultivators, it was not absolute. Some cultivators were unlucky and met very strong cultivators. Naturally, they would not be able to improve their battle results. However, some cultivators were lucky and their battle results were much better. However, once the two of them met, it was hard to tell whether the final result would be good or bad. Chapter 30-36. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen naturally noticed this and their expressions became complicated. If this method didn't work, then it wouldn't be so easy for them to spend their days in the demon training tower. According to these odds, Zhao Jun should have a higher chance of winning. Unfortunately, our cultivation isn't enough and we can't carefully distinguish the strength of their auras. We can only roughly judge from their current performance. Di Beichen said in a deep voice. Xiron nodded. In this way, the accuracy of our judgment will decrease a lot. I'm afraid there will be a winner and a loser. Then there's nothing we can do. We can only try our best to judge more accurately. Shangguan Yingying revealed a helpless expression. The current scene really left her at her wits' end. Originally, they had been living as geniuses until now, but ever since they came to Penglai Island, the situation had changed. Not only was their cultivation lower than ordinary people, but their wealth was also completely insufficient. Now, this was the only way to earn some spiritual knowledge, but the success rate couldn't be guaranteed. Who do you bet on? Xiron asked. While they were discussing, more than half of the betting time had passed. If they still didn't bet, then all of this would be over. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three looked at each other and said their thoughts in unison. Zhao Jun. Zhang Liang. Zhao Jun. Zhang Liang. Hearing this result, a helpless expression appeared on the faces of the four people. The result was actually 2 against 2. This was a big problem. In my opinion, this isn't the way. I'm afraid we have to stay in the stands for a while. After we have a better understanding of the combat strength of these people, the accuracy of our bets will increase. When Xiron's brows furrowed slightly, and his dark eyes shone with a thoughtful light. Right now, they were already embarrassingly short of money, and simply did not have any more money to squander. Once they lost the bet, it would be one disaster after another. If they couldn't find a way to earn money on this demon training island, going to other islands would only be worse. Because here, as long as they stayed in the residential area, ordinary people wouldn't be able to detect their cultivation at all, so there was naturally no need to hide too much. Once they went to other islands, if they wanted to earn spirit stones, they would have to deal with other people, and it would be even more difficult to hide. If that's the case, it'll take a lot of time, Bailey Hongzhuang said in a low voice. Time was of the essence to them. When Xiron shrugged. But there's nothing we can do about the current situation. Why don't we do it in batches? That way we can save some time on cultivation. That's the only way now. Di Beichen nodded. When Xiron smiled faintly. Let's be more optimistic. Watching this kind of competition will also be very beneficial for us to improve our strength. These are not the meaningless competitions that we've seen before. Then it's decided. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. In this competition, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three didn't bet. Instead, they sat quietly in the stands and watched the whole competition. At the same time, they also had a certain understanding of the strength of Zhang Liang and Zhao Jun. At least the next time the two of them went on the stage, it would be much easier for them to judge, and the odds of winning would also increase a lot. Chapter 30-38. Once they returned to the room, Bailey Hongzhuang impatiently told Di Beichen her idea. Di Beichen, I'm preparing to make some healing medicine and put it on sale at the counter. If the sales are good, we can save a lot of time and just focus on cultivating. Moreover, The demon training tower also has quite a few heavenly treasures for sale that can help increase cultivation. However, these require a certain amount of points, and selling things can also give us a certain amount of points. Once we succeed, we can use this method to increase our cultivation as quickly as possible. Bailey Hongzhuang's bright eyes flashed with excitement and anticipation. She felt extremely helpless about their situation after coming to the demon training tower. Now that they had a chance to change this situation, it was undoubtedly the best result. Hearing this, Di Beichen did not find Bailey Hongzhuang's suggestion strange at all. In fact, after hearing the conversation between the two cultivators, he had already guessed Bailey Hongzhuang's idea. In terms of ability to survive outside, he, Wen Xiren, and Shangguan Yingying could not compare to Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang, who had a myriad of talents, would never be in a difficult situation no matter where she was. Speaking of which, they were really basking in Bailey Hongzhuang's light. Wife, this is a good suggestion. However, wouldn't this waste too much of your time? Di Beichen's black eyes were filled with deep concern. If it saved the three of them time and caused Bailey Hongzhuang to waste all of her time, it would not be worth it. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly and said with a smile, "Don't worry, I can make healing medicine very quickly. It won't take as much time as refining pills. I'll start making it now and bring it to the counter to try it out later. However, I won't state my identity as a doctor, so I'm afraid that the sales will not be too good at the beginning." "No need to rush, we're just trying it out," Di Beichen said. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and immediately began to get busy. When it came to making medicinal ingredients, she was very familiar with it. Her chaos ring had always been filled with many medicinal ingredients. Because the chances of her using them were very high, she was used to filling it to the brim. Every time she used some, she would fill it up as long as she had the chance. This good habit also saved her a lot of trouble. If she bought medicinal ingredients in the demon training tower, the price would be several times higher than outside. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang focus on making the medicine, Di Beichen stared at it for a while before entering his cultivation. He did not want to disturb Hongzhuang's making. The three beasties stayed by Bailey Hongzhuang's side. Xiao He and Xiao Bai even directly helped Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 30-41. She felt that she was choosing someone she could rely on among the many cultivators. Little did she know that in the eyes of many more people, she was merely a commodity to be chosen. Women like her had always been pitiful. The most pitiful thing was that she had fallen into such a situation without even realizing it. After returning to their room, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen entered a state of cultivation together. The two of them entered the chaos ring directly. Cultivating in the desert world was the best way to improve. Now that their powers have increased, they have almost explored the entire desert world. Thinking back when they had first arrived, they had only felt that the desert world was incomparably vast. After spending so much time exploring, they had changed from being ignorant to understanding. The desert world wasn't endless. It had an end as well. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen had killed more and more monstrous beasts in the desert world. In the process of such battles, their powers had also continued to increase. After all, they could only fight with all their might against monstrous beasts with coarse skin, thick flesh, and boundless strength. Under such imperceptible influence, their powers had gradually increased. It was not only Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. The three demonic beasts' powers had also increased. There seems to be a city wall in front. Standing in the middle of the desert world, Bailey Hongzhuang stared at the towering city wall in the distance. A trace of astonishment flashed across her pitch-black phoenix eyes. All this time they had only seen boundless yellow sand in the desert world. The entire place was empty and there was nothing but sand dunes. However, at this moment, in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's eyes, a row of city walls had clearly appeared. The appearance of these city walls was extremely sudden. It was as if they had always been here. Di Beichen stopped in his tracks and looked in the direction that Bailey Hongzhuang was pointing. A trace of astonishment flashed across his handsome eyes. It really is a city wall. Why would a city wall suddenly appear here? That's strange. Bailey Hongzhuang pondered. So far they had stayed in the desert world for a long time, but they had only seen monsters and had never seen humans. So what was the situation with the city wall now? Let's go take a look, Di Beichen said in a deep voice. Now the demonic beasts in the desert world were no longer a threat to them. The city wall in front of them was strange. They had to take a look to be sure. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, her pretty face showing a trace of vigilance and seriousness, but her eyes flashed with a trace of expectation. From the moment they entered the desert world, they had been exploring. The appearance of new things meant that there might be new opportunities. She was an adventurer, so she was full of anticipation for such novel things. We will not reveal the seller's specific information. You can rest assured about this. Oh, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was still indifferent, and there was no change in her expression. If there is someone who wants to buy my healing medicine in the future, please help me tell them that the price will be increased by 10 times. Bailey Hongzhuang did not think that this price was high. She also noticed that the healing medicines sold by the other doctors in the demon training tower were mostly priced between 30 to 40 spirit stones, while the healing pills were priced between 80 to 100 spirit stones. Chapter 3049. Of course, this was also due to the high price of the devil training tower. If it was any other place, the healing medicine would definitely not be sold at this price. However, at the same time, the price of medicinal ingredients in the devil training tower was also extremely high. Moreover, the commission for the items sold in the devil training tower was simply too high. A 40% commission was definitely impossible in the outside world. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Sweet Dream could not help but widen her eyes. There was only one thought in her mind. Bailey Hongzhuang was crazy. 10 times the price? Are you sure? Sweet Dream exclaimed. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. No, if someone wants to buy it again, just tell them that. She believed that Xiaoyihan should be someone who knew the value of the medicine. As long as he used this healing medicine, he would discover that its effects were far better than ordinary healing medicine. Moreover, overall, the price of this healing medicine was more worth it than buying healing pills. No one would complain about having too many spirit stones, and the rich people were the same. You're simply dreaming. Sweet Dream looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. Her face was faintly tinged with anger. She felt that Bailey Hongzhuang simply did not know what was good for her. You should be thanking the heavens and earth that these healing medicine can be sold. If you still want to use this to make a large sum of money, I can only tell you that it's simply impossible. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged, completely ignoring Sweet Dream's anger. This woman had looked down on her from the beginning. It was normal for her to say such words at this moment. Whether it's possible or not is not up to you to decide. I said that if someone comes to buy it again, you should tell them that. You should understand this point, right? Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was still being stubborn, Sweet Dream was also angered. She immediately said, I understand. If someone asks, I will definitely clearly convey your request to them. However, you better not have too much hope. All right. Bailey Hongzhuang faintly left a word and closed the door again. Sweet Dream stared at the tightly shut door in front of her and fell into a daze. The anger in her heart rose. She had come to deliver a piece of good news to Bailey Hongzhuang, but she had been rejected twice. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "You seem to have a problem with that girl? Person who looks down on me. No matter what she does, she always thinks that she's giving me charity. But obviously I don't need it." Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows, her ink-black phoenix eyes rippling with an indifferent light. If someone who lived on the upper floor told Sweet Dream the same thing at this moment, Sweet Dream would definitely nod and flatter them, but if it was a cultivator like her who lived on the second floor, Sweet Dream didn't believe it from the bottom of her heart. Because of this, the two of them were destined to hate each other. Di Beichen nodded slightly. She has always had such an attitude. But how could she understand my wife's abilities? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. If my judgment is correct, it won't be long before our embarrassing situation improves. She was unwilling to refine pills to sell because it was too much of a waste of time. Spirit stones were only a means for her to increase her cultivation. If she wasted too much time in order to earn spirit stones, the gains would not make up for the losses. My wife is so amazing, I must reward her well. I wonder if that cultivator still has any more of this healing medicine. I will definitely go to the counter tomorrow and ask. Xiaoyihan made up his mind. If the other party still had more healing medicine, then he would definitely buy all of it for himself. It was impossible to have too many of such treasures. The next day, when Xiaoyihan's opponent, Lu Mingxiu, saw that Xiaoyihan had recovered to his original appearance on the stage, his face couldn't help but be filled with astonishment. According to his understanding, Xiaoyihan had already used up all of his healing pills, and all of the healing pills that were sold yesterday had already been taken by him. How did Xiaoyihan heal? Lu Mingxiu was shocked. Could it be that Xiaoyihan had purposely guarded against him and told him false information? Chapter 3052. Xiaoyihan naturally noticed the change in Lu Mingxiu's expression, and immediately made a judgment in his heart. It seemed that his guess was not wrong. The reason he was in such a situation yesterday was largely related to Lu Mingxiu. If he hadn't coincidentally bought the healing medicine from the cultivator on the second floor, he would have really been tricked by Lu Mingxiu today. However, looking at Lu Mingxiu's shocked expression, he felt unusually happy. This proved that the heavens were still on his side. Lu Mingxiu had calculated everything, but he still missed one thing. In the end, Xiaoyihan was still the winner of this match. Looking at the unwilling Lu Mingxiu in front of him, Xiaoyihan only felt that his mood was extremely good. He proudly raised his eyebrows at Lu Mingxiu and said with a smile, "No matter how you think about it, you still missed one thing. Instead of using your brain on this kind of crooked path, I advise you to improve your own strength." Lu Mingxiu, who was already extremely unresigned, became even more furious after hearing Xiaoyihan's words. "Every dog has its day. I only won once. Don't be too arrogant. The winner is the king, and the loser is the bandit. What can you do to me if I'm arrogant?" Xiaoyihan sneered. Lu Mingxiu fiercely glared at Xiaoyihan, then turned and left the stage. After returning to his room, Lu Mingxiu couldn't take this lying down the more he thought about it. He clearly heard Xiaoyihan telling his friend that he had run out of healing medicine and could only go to the counter to buy more after the match. That was why he bought all the healing medicine one step ahead of time. This way, his chances of winning would increase a bit. He originally thought that he had tricked Xiaoyihan, but he didn't expect that he would be tricked by Xiaoyihan instead. This feeling made Lu Mingxiu extremely unhappy. After thinking about it, Lu Mingxiu still decided to go to the counter and ask. He had to find out whether he had fallen into Xiaoyihan's trap and wasted his efforts, or if Xiaoyihan had bought the healing medicine from somewhere else. In front of the counter, Did Xiaoyi Han buy the healing medicine from you yesterday? Lu Mingxiu asked. When the woman at the counter heard Lu Mingxiu's words, her expression immediately became awkward. Young Master Lu, you've been in the Demon Training Tower for so long, so you should know the rules of the Demon Training Tower. We are not allowed to reveal information about other guests. I'm just asking you if he bought any healing medicine. It's not a secret, so why can't you answer me? Lu Mingxiu's expression was slightly cold, and his voice was filled with displeasure. His cold gaze seemed to say that as long as the woman in front of him did not answer, he would not let her have an easy time. The woman at the counter couldn't help but panic. She felt that she was really too unlucky. Yesterday, Xiaoyi Han came here and made a big fuss. It was not easy to solve this problem. She did not expect Lu Mingxiu to come looking for trouble again today. She could not afford to offend either of these two people. If she told this news to Lu Mingxiu and Xiaoyi Han found out, she would still be in trouble. This was really a dilemma. Young Master Lu, if I tell you, young Master Xiao will definitely blame me when he finds out, the woman said submissively. You mean that you're more afraid of Xiaoyi Han than of me? Lu Mingxiu raised his eyebrows and asked. As soon as these words came out, the woman immediately realized that the situation was not good. She quickly waved her hand and said, No, that's not what I meant. Chapter 3053. The woman was shocked by Lu Mingxiu's fierceness, and the panic on her face became even more obvious. She was constantly weighing how to solve this problem. She knew the result of today's battle between Lu Mingxiu and Xiaoyi Han. In terms of strength, Xiaoyi Han was still slightly stronger. If she offended Xiaoyi Han because of Lu Mingxiu, it would not be a wise move. Most importantly, even if she did not reveal Xiaoyi Han's situation now, Xiaoyi Han would not help her. Without any backing, she had no way to go against Lu Mingxiu at all. Just then, a voice suddenly sounded behind Lu Mingxiu, with a hint of mockery and sarcasm. Lu Mingxiu, even if you lost to me in the battle, there's no need to vent your emotions on a mere counter girl, right? Xiaoyi Han smiled at Lu Mingxiu. He came to the counter because he wanted to know more about the cultivator, who sold the healing medicine on the second floor. If he had the chance, he wanted to buy more healing medicine. In his opinion, his smooth victory today was partly due to that cultivator's contribution. He was very interested in getting to know him. When Lu Mingxiu turned around and saw Xiaoyi Han, his face instantly darkened. Xiaoyi Han, what I want to do is my business. I don't need you to judge. Haha. Xiaoyi Han laughed mockingly. Looks like it was indeed your doing that I couldn't buy the healing medicine yesterday. I didn't expect your methods to become more and more despicable. Lu Mingxiu's gaze was sinister and vicious. His entire face had changed from rage to coldness. You just won today by luck. Don't be so proud. I'll take back what you took away soon. Xiaoyi Han shrugged nonchalantly. Up to you. But it won't be easy for you to take it back with your little ability. Lu Mingxiu glared fiercely at Xiaoyi Han. The viciousness and coldness in his eyes were enough to send chills down one's spine. However, the person standing opposite him was Xiaoyi Han, so he did not feel anything at all. Xiaoyi Han, don't just talk about me. Didn't you purposely release fake news to make me do this? Lu Mingxiu sneered. Xiaoyi Han usually thought that he was very righteous, but in reality, he still used some tricks behind the scenes. Then you're wrong. Just because you're like this doesn't mean I'm like this. Don't confuse people like you with me. Looking at Xiaoyi Han's face that had a clear conscience, Lu Mingxiu's gaze gradually changed. Could it be that he had guessed wrong? The news that there was no healing medicine wasn't fake news that Xiaoyi Han released, but that Xiaoyi Han had solved the problem in other ways? However, Lu Mingxiu did not continue asking. He turned around and left. He had to get to the bottom of this matter. If there was someone who was secretly helping Lu Mingxiu, then he had to get to the bottom of it. If I didn't live on the second floor, no one would believe what I took out, and I wouldn't sell it at such a price. However, that's only the first batch. The current price is 50 spirit stones. If you can accept it, then buy it. If you can't, then forget it. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's unyielding attitude, the woman couldn't help but frown. Young Master D, from what I know, the price of this healing medicine is usually around 30 to 40 spirit stones. Isn't 50 spirit stones a little too much? Sweet Dream patted the shoulder of the woman behind the counter and expressed some sympathy for her. The higher one worked on the higher floor, the less one dared to offend people. In comparison, her work at the counter on the second floor was much easier, but the pay was correspondingly much lower. 10 times? After hearing the counters that? S right sweets SS's. S with the is that. Sweets with ye. TTSSS? SSSS? SS Sweets SS? Young Master Xiao said that he wants to buy 50 sets of healing medicine. The woman at the counter said awkwardly. Sweet Dream couldn't help but be stunned when she heard this. She asked in astonishment, "What did you say?" Sweet Dream, I think we might have made a mistake. Although young Master Xiao was surprised when he heard the price, he immediately accepted it. In my opinion, I'm afraid that the effect of the healing medicine is really very good. Otherwise, young Master Xiao wouldn't have agreed. The woman at the counter understood at this moment. Xiao Yihan usually bought many things from her, so she had a certain understanding of Xiao Yihan's personality. At least, Xiao Yihan had never bought so many healing medicines at once when he bought them from other pharmacists and doctors. His large hand held Bailey Hongzhuang's small hand tightly as he said in a deep voice, "My wife, you don't have to do this for me. I understand. Perhaps I'm being greedy. I also want to be part of a friendship like yours." Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a radiant smile. She had kept this secret for many years. Now, even though her cultivation could not be considered extremely powerful, she still had the ability to protect herself. Even if someone wanted to snatch her chaos ring away, it would not be an easy task. Chapter 3060. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang gave Sweet Dream the 50 sets of healing medicine that she had made. Although 50 sets of healing medicine was a lot, with Bailey Hongzhuang's ability, it didn't take long to make them. Moreover, with Xiao He and Xiao Bai helping out, the speed was much faster. Sweet Dream looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in front of her, and her thoughts were extremely complicated. Especially after seeing the coldness on Bailey Hongzhuang's face, she felt even more upset. She still remembered that when she saw Bailey Hongzhuang before, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't treat her like this. However, it seemed that her recent actions had really offended Bailey Hongzhuang. Every time she saw Bailey Hongzhuang, she could feel the coldness on Bailey Hongzhuang's face become thicker. Now Bailey Hongzhuang didn't even want to look at her. When she first saw Bailey Hongzhuang, Sweet Dream had a good impression of this handsome man in front of her. Later, when she found out that Bailey Hongzhuang was just a poor ghost, Sweet Dream's behavior was so mocking, because she felt very disappointed. Now, looking at the spirit stones that Bailey Hongzhuang earned from selling the healing medicine, she felt that the situation seemed to be different from what she had imagined. 50 sets of healing medicine, and Bailey Hongzhuang took them out just like that. Sweet Dream had a faint guess in her mind, Could Bailey Hongzhuang be a doctor? After all, very few cultivators would bring so many healing medicine at once, let alone sell them here. It wasn't that she hadn't seen some strange alchemists or doctors. Their actions were often incomprehensible to ordinary people. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang was one of them? If that was really the case, then she really misjudged him. Bailey Hongzhuang saw Sweet Dream staring at her blankly and couldn't help coughing twice to remind her. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's coughing, Sweet Dream returned to her senses and blushed. Young Master D, each of these 50 sets of healing pills is priced at 50 spirit stones, so it's a total of 2,500 spirit stones. After deducting the handling fee, there's still 1,500 spirit stones left. The spirit stones are all here. Take a look and see if they are correct. Bailey Hongzhuang took the Qianquan pouch from Sweet Dream's hands and glanced at it. After confirming that it was enough, she nodded and said, "I'll have to trouble you." Ever since she came to Penglai Island, Bailey Hongzhuang had never received so many spiritual stones. Thinking that she could cultivate well without worrying about the consumption of spiritual stones, Bailey Hongzhuang was in a very good mood. Young Master D. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's departing figure, Sweet Dream couldn't help but call out. Bailey Hongzhuang turned around with a trace of surprise in her black eyes. "Is there something else?" Sweet Dream was stunned and the embarrassment on her face became even more intense. She couldn't help but say, "No. Nothing." Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang frowned and the doubt in her eyes deepened. Then she left. Today, Sweet Dream was acting strangely. She couldn't understand what was going on. "Master, do you think Sweet Dream likes you?" Not long after she left, Xiao Hei's gossipy heart was already ignited. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand. "That's impossible. What kind of person have the women in the demon training tower not seen? My current appearance can't be considered very handsome, let alone a poor ghost." Chapter 3061. Bailey Hongzhuang reached out and flicked Xiao Hei's forehead. "I didn't expect you to be so concerned about this kind of thing." Xiao Hei chuckled. "Aren't I just concerned about Master? Although that Sweet Dream is usually quite annoying, she's clearly concerned about Master. Maybe she's interested in Beichun or Wenziren. A fake man like me shouldn't have that kind of charm." Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. She was currently disguised as a man. Although she thought that her disguise was quite good and that no one would discover that she was a woman, she had never thought that she would be so charming. That's not necessarily true. Everyone has different tastes. Xiao Hei chuckled. Then asked Xiao Bai, "What do you think?" "I don't know either." Xiao Bai shook her head, looking confused. "But I do think that Sweet Dream is a little strange today." "Why are you thinking so much?" "We don't have anything to do with her." Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was indifferent. "It's just that Sweet Dream happened to be working as a counter on the second floor recently. After a few days she'll move to a different floor and won't be seen anymore." When they returned to the house, Bailey Hongzhuang called Wenziren and Shangguan Yingying over. "Hongzhuang, why did you call us over?" Shangguan Yingying's face was rippling with a faint smile. "Ziren and I are preparing to head to the arena area." Today was the day that she and Ziren were going to the arena area. When she first went to the arena area, she was very unaccustomed to it. But now she was familiar with it. Going there again was a walk in the park. Of course, even so, she didn't like the arena area at all. "Yingying, don't go to the arena area for the time being." Bailey Hongzhuang spoke up. "Ah." Shangguan Yingying was a little surprised. Based on their current situation, their main source of spirit stones was still the bedding in the arena area. "I sold some healing medicine today, and just so happened to earn some spirit stones. It's enough for us to use for a while." Bailey Hongzhuang winked, her eyes revealing a hint of playfulness. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Shangguan Yingying and Wenziren's faces filled with curiosity. "How much did you earn from selling healing medicine?" "A total of 2,500 spirit stones. It's not too much. After we got it, we're only left with 1,500 spirit stones. But it's enough for us to use." Bailey Hongzhuang. 2,500 spirit stones? One his essa. We've been in the arena area for so long and we've only earned 100 spirit stones a day. Hongzhuang, you've earned 1,500 spirit stones a day. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. The Devil Training Tower's demand for healing medicine is quite high, and the price is also quite high. Xiren gave Bailey Hongzhuang a thumbs up and then said to Di Beichen, Beichen, you've really found a good wife. Her methods, her ability, tisk tsk. Of course. Di Beichen reached out and hugged Bailey Hongzhuang, his face filled with pride. Seeing Di Beichen so proud, Xiren's face couldn't help but darken. You're really shameless. Di Beichen shrugged indifferently. I know you're envious. Xiren sneered and hugged Shangguan Yingying's shoulder. Yingying, let's not lower ourselves to his level. Chapter 3062. With their current situation, if they didn't have to worry about using spirit stones and could focus on cultivation, it wouldn't take long for them to break through to the 4th level of the Purple Realm. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other, then shook their heads. No, we'll go somewhere else to cultivate today. Xiren and Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but be startled when they heard this. Then where are we going to cultivate? Don't tell me we're going to the cultivation area? Even if we have a bit more spirit stones now, we can't afford to go to the cultivation area. Not to mention our level isn't high enough to go there. Xiren and Shangguan Yingying couldn't think of any other place to cultivate on the entire demonic refining island apart from the cultivation area. I'm going to take you to a special place to cultivate, but this place is my secret. Bailey Hongzhuang's ink-black phoenix eyes stared at Xiren and Shangguan Yingying. Her voice was steady and certain. Xiren subconsciously looked at Di Beichen. Di Beichen also nodded, his expression solemn and serious. Seeing this, Shangguan Yingying and Xiren both realized that the situation wasn't simple. Otherwise, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't have such expressions. Xiren, Yingying, I hope you can help Hongzhuang keep this secret, Di Beichen said in a deep voice. Bailey Hongzhuang's words had convinced him. This was a risky move, but if it succeeded, the 4 of them would be able to quickly improve together, and their friendship would become even stronger. Xiren and Shangguan Yingying looked at each other. They already had some guesses in their minds. It seemed that this was related to Hongzhuang's secret. Even if they didn't know what kind of secret this was, with Xiren's understanding of Di Beichen, they knew that this secret was not simple. If that wasn't the case, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen would have already told them. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying's serious expressions, Xiren and Shangguan Yingying didn't really care about what the secret was. Just the fact that Bailey Hongzhuang was willing to take such a risk and tell them the secret was already something very meaningful. Hongzhuang, Di Beichen, don't worry, we'll definitely keep this secret. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Of course, we'll believe you. The next second, Bailey Hongzhuang's mind moved, and Shangguan Yingying and Xiren were surprised to find that a mysterious black and white palace appeared in front of them. Magical colors flowed around the palace, revealing a mysterious and profound aura. The environment they were in was completely different from before. This caused Shangguan Yingying and Li Wuyo's eyes to widen, their faces filled with shock. This is, come with me. With that, Bailey Hongzhuang took the lead and walked into the palace. Xiren glanced at Di Beichen. Di Beichen raised his eyebrows and gestured for them to go in and take a look. When Xiren and Shangguan Yingying saw the various environments inside the palace, the shock in their hearts grew stronger and stronger. They never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would have a palace like this. This was just too amazing. This is a small world that I own, Bailey Hongzhuang said frankly. Shangguan Yingying stared blankly at the scene around her and said, this is really too shocking. It's unbelievable. Chapter 3063. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded, then shook her head. We have to go to another small world to cultivate. There are demonic beasts there that can increase our battle prowess. Moreover, the time flow inside is 1/3 of the outside world. In other words, 3 days inside is equivalent to 1 day outside. This way we'll have more time to cultivate. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xiren and Shangguan Yingying's mouths were already agape. They were so shocked that they did not know what to say. There's another small world other than this one? When Xiren said in astonishment. That's right. When Xiren rubbed his head and paused for a moment before he said, Wait a moment. Give me some time to digest this. Isn't this secret of yours a little too shocking? I've never seen such an abnormal thing. Xiren's eyes were filled with shock. He felt that all of this was inconceivable. If he did not clearly know that everything before his eyes was real, he would only feel that this was a dream. As the young sect master of the Cloud Sword sect, he had seen a lot of the world. Naturally, he knew that some cultivators would have some mysterious tools to help them cultivate. However, everything that Bailey Hongzhuang had displayed was simply too powerful. It was so powerful that he could not believe it at all. He believed that not to mention him, even his knowledgeable old man would definitely be unable to believe it when he saw this scene. Di Beichen patted Xiren's shoulder and revealed an empathetic smile. When he first found out about this, his thoughts were exactly the same as Xiren's. From a certain point of view, the Chaos Ring possessing such an ability was already a heaven-defying existence. At this moment, Shangguan Yingying was completely dumbfounded. After she understood everything, she could not help but pull Bailey Hongzhuang's hand with a face full of nervousness. Hongzhuang, are you crazy? If such a huge secret were to be leaked out, who knows how many cultivators would be envious of it? You could lose your life at any time. How dare you say it out loud? Listening to Shangguan Yingying's words, the smile in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes couldn't help but deepen. She understood that she had won the bet. Because I trust you. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Because I believe in you. Shangguan Yingying and Wen Xiren couldn't help but be startled by his words. Their hearts seemed to have been touched, and an indescribable warmth spread through them. When they looked at Bailey Hongzhuang again, their eyes were even brighter. If they had such a treasure, they probably wouldn't dare to tell others about it. It wasn't that he didn't trust her, but without enough trust he definitely couldn't tell her. In this world, how many life and death friendships had collapsed because of a single treasure? In order to snatch the treasure, friends and brothers who had killed each other were simply too many to count. They never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's trust in them would reach such a level. This made them feel flattered, and at the same time, they also felt a heavy sense of responsibility. When Bailey Hongzhuang decided to tell them this secret, Bailey Hongzhuang had already begun a huge gamble. She was gambling with her own life. In the face of such a huge gamble, how could they let Bailey Hongzhuang lose? Chapter 3064. Previously, when Xiren and Shangguan Yingying also treated Bailey Hongzhuang as a good friend, but that was mainly because of Di Beichen. Di Beichen was a good friend they had grown up with. As Di Beichen's wife, Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying were naturally a group. However, compared to their absolute trust in Di Beichen, there was still a distance between them and Bailey Hongzhuang. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang was so unreserved towards them, it meant that Bailey Hongzhuang had enough trust and sincerity towards them. If they still did not treat Bailey Hongzhuang wholeheartedly, then they were not human. In the face of such a treasure, anyone would feel envious, but this thing belonged to their good friend. Whether it was Wen Xiren or Shangguan Yingying, they would not have any other thoughts, because they had to be worthy of that trust. Hongzhuang, thank you. Shangguan Yingying stared at Bailey Hongzhuang, her bright and clear eyes filled with sincerity and deep affection. At this time she would not say anything else, but she was really grateful that Bailey Hongzhuang could trust her so much, because this trust was really precious. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled sweetly. She already understood Shangguan Yingying's meaning. Xiren did not say anything, he just glanced at Di Beichen, and Di Beichen also understood. After being brothers for so many years, many things could be understood with just a glance. No one said anything else about this matter, but at this moment silence spoke louder than words. Everyone seemed to have enough tacit understanding. Now let's go to the cultivation place. Di Beichen smiled faintly. The situation in front of him was undoubtedly the best situation he wanted to see. Hearing this, when Xiren and Shangguan Yingying looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying expectantly, and said, "Take us to have a look. I also want to know what kind of good cultivation place it is." Soon Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three appeared in the ocean world together. Xiren and Shangguan Yingying looked at the vast sea in front of them. Their faces could not help but be filled with deep surprise. My God, this is your small world? I feel like I've returned to the days when I was drifting on the sea in front of Penglai Island. Xiren looked at everything in front of him. This environment was really not an ordinary kind of familiar environment. It is indeed very similar, but this is a different place, and the monster beasts here are different from the monster beasts we usually see at the bottom of the sea. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. After these days of exploration and cultivation in the ocean world with Di Beichen, they found that this place was the same as the desert world. The monster beasts here were different from the monster beasts outside. If the monster beasts in the desert world were said to be extremely strong, the monster beasts here could be said to be extremely slippery and good at fighting in groups. Fortunately, Di Beichen and the three beasts had a large number of people, and were responsible for facing the monster beasts. It was not easy to win. After almost every battle they were exhausted, only feeling that all the strength in their bodies had been sucked out. Fortunately, they had spirit stones to help them quickly recover their cultivation, and the effect of using spirit stones to cultivate was also the best. You're tuning into the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.